He wasn't supposed to remember, not before the end came for him. The room smells like antiseptic and cold air, the kind that hums softly through vents and settles into your bones, the kind that makes time feel slower than it is, and on the bed lies Staff Sergeant Ethan Cole, still as winter ground. A thin blanket rising and falling with each measured breath, while machines beside him whisper in quiet beeps, steady but fragile, like a promise that could break without warning, and at the foot of that bed, unmoving except for the faint shift of his chest, lies Rex, a German shepherd with a sable coat dulled by weeks of waiting, his amber eyes fixed not on the man he once followed through fire and dust, but somewhere else, somewhere just beyond what others can see, as if he's listening to a sound no human can hear. As if he remembers something the world has already tried to forget, and outside the narrow hospital window, late afternoon light spills in soft and pale, stretching across the floor like a memory that refuses to fade, but inside, the air feels heavier, like something unfinished lingers between each breath Ethan takes, like a mission paused, but not complete, and Rex knows it. You can see it in the way his ears twitch at the smallest shift, the way his body stays coiled even in rest, not in fear, but in readiness, in purpose, because this is not how their story was supposed to end, not in a quiet room miles away from the heat and noise of everything they once survived together, not without a command, not without a signal, and yet. There is something else, something wrong, because Rex does not look at Ethan the way he used to, does not press close or whine for attention. Instead his gaze drifts toward the foreline, toward the slow drip of clear liquid sliding through the tube. And a low sound builds in his chest, not loud enough to alarm, but deep enough to carry weight, the kind of sound that once stopped men in their tracks on distant fields, the kind of sound that meant trust your instincts or don't walk another step. And the nurse at the door pauses for just a second, sensing it without understanding, because Rex has not made a sound in days, not since they brought him here, not since he lay down and refused to leave, as if guarding something no one else can see, as if standing watch over a promise only he remembers, and Ethan's hand, resting limp against the blanket, shifts just barely. A movement so small it could be missed if you blink, but Rex does not miss it. He never misses anything. His head lifts a fraction, eyes sharpening, breath catching in a way that feels almost human, because somewhere deep beneath the silence, beneath the weight of whatever has taken Ethan to the edge, there is something trying to return, something unfinished, something calling him back, and Rex leans forward just enough to listen, because sometimes the final mission doesn't begin with a command. Sometimes it begins with a whisper only one soul is meant to hear. The machine continues its steady rhythm, a soft electronic pulse that fills the room like a second heartbeat, and for a moment nothing changes. Not the light, not the air, not the weight pressing down on everything that remains unsaid, but inside Rex something shifts. Subtle and immediate, like a current running beneath still water, because that small movement from Ethan's hand was not random. It carried intention, faint but real, and Rex has spent years learning the difference between noise and meaning, between chance and signal. His nose lifts slightly, drawing in the sterile scent around him, searching beneath it, deeper than what any human could notice, and there it is again, not a smell exactly, but a memory tied to one. Dust and sun-baked metal, the faint trace of engine oil carried on desert wind, the kind of scent that never truly leaves a soldier or the dog who walked beside him, and without a sound Rex rises to his feet, slow and deliberate, his paws silent against the polished floor as he steps closer to the bed, his eyes never leaving Ethan's face, pale under the hospital lights, lined with the kind of exhaustion that does not come from one night or one mission, but from years of carrying more than anyone ever sees. And Rex remembers the first time he saw that face, not here, not like this, but under a sky so wide it felt endless, where the heat pressed down like a weight and the horizon shimmered in waves, where Ethan stood tall and steady, one hand resting lightly on Rex's back, not as control, but as trust, a quiet understanding passed without words, and even then, before commands were perfect, before routines were memorized, Rex knew this man was his, not by ownership, but by choice, by something deeper that did not need explanation, and now that same man lies still, caught somewhere between staying and leaving, and Rex steps closer until his nose nearly touches Ethan's hand, hesitating for just a second as if asking permission, then lowering his head to rest gently against it, and the contact is soft, almost nothing, but it is enough, because Ethan's fingers twitch again, slightly stronger this time, and a breath catches in his chest, uneven, uncertain. Like someone finding their way back through fog, and Rex lets out a quiet exhale, not a whine, not a bark, just a release of something held too long, and he stays there, unmoving, anchoring himself to that fragile connection, because he has felt this before, not in a hospital room, but in moments when everything depended on a single second, when stillness meant survival, when waiting was the only way forward, and across the room a monitor flickers. Its pattern shifting just enough to draw a nurse's attention as she glances up from the chart in her hands, her brow tightening slightly as she watches the change, small but undeniable, and she takes a step forward, then another. Careful not to disturb what she does not fully understand, because there is something about the way the dog stands, the way the air seems to hold its breath around him, that tells her this is not just routine, not just recovery, but something else entirely, something quieter, something deeper. As if the bond between them is pulling against the edge of whatever is trying to take Ethan away, and Rex does not move, does not break contact, because somewhere inside him a truth is settling into place, clear and unshakable, that this is not the end of their mission. Not yet, because Ethan has not given the final command, and until he does, Rex will not leave. Not now, not ever. The room does not change, but something inside it begins to shift, slow and almost invisible, like the first light before sunrise that no one notices until it is already there, and Rex feels it before anyone else does, not in sound or sight, but in the way Ethan's breathing changes, just slightly, just enough to break the pattern that had held steady for hours, and that is all it takes, because Rex has learned to read what others miss. The smallest fracture in silence, the faintest return of will, and his ears tilt forward as his body stills even further, if that is possible, every muscle quiet, every instinct focused, as if the world has narrowed down to this one fragile moment, and somewhere deep behind Ethan's closed eyes, something stirs, not a memory fully formed, but pieces of one, scattered and distant, like fragments of a voice carried across wind, a command half heard, a presence that refuses to fade, and it comes with a sensation. Not pain, not fear, but weight, the kind that presses against the chest when something important is unfinished, and in that space between sleep and waking, Ethan feels it, a warmth against his hand, steady and grounding, and his fingers move again, this time not by accident, but with intention, curling slightly against the coarse fur beneath them, and the contact is enough to pull a breath from him, deeper than before, uneven but real, and Rex does not move away, does not react with excitement. Because he understands this is not a moment to break, but to hold, to anchor, to remain exactly where he is needed, and the nurse steps closer now, her eyes fixed on the monitor as the rhythm shifts, not dramatically, but enough to change everything, and she glances from the screen to the man, then to the dog, as if trying to understand how something so small could carry such weight, and in the quiet of that room, Ethan's lips part just slightly, a whisper forming without sound. The shape of a word that has been spoken 1,000 times before, and though no voice follows, Rex hears it anyway, not with his ears, but with something deeper, something built over years of walking side by side, and his head lifts just enough to meet Ethan's face, eyes searching, waiting, and for a brief second that feels longer than it should, Ethan's eyelids tremble, the faintest flicker of movement breaking through the stillness, and the light from the window shifts across his face, catching in the lines that tell a story no one else in the room fully knows, and then, slowly, uncertainly, his eyes open, not wide, not clear, but enough to see, enough to recognize shape and presence, and they land on Rex, and there is confusion there at first, distant and unfocused. Like looking at something through water, but Rex does not look away, does not move. He simply holds that gaze, steady and unwavering, offering something no machine in the room can give, and in that silent exchange, something clicks into place, not fully. Not yet, but enough to matter, because Ethan's breath catches again, and this time it carries a trace of something else, something that has been missing, something that sounds almost like recognition, and though the world outside continues without pause, traffic moving. Voices rising and falling beyond the walls. Inside this room, everything narrows to that single connection, fragile but unbroken, as if the mission they began long ago is finding its way back to them, piece by piece, breath by breath. For a moment the world holds its breath, as if even time itself is waiting to see what he will do with this fragile return, and Ethan's eyes remain open, not fully clear, not fully steady, but present enough to see the shape in front of him. The outline of a dog that has not moved, has not left, has not surrendered to the quiet pull of uncertainty that surrounds everything in this room, and there is something in that stillness that reaches deeper than memory, something that does not need names, or ranks or places, something older than all of it, and Rex feels that the second Ethan's gaze sharpens just a fraction more, because that look, even weakened, even distant, carries a trace of the man he followed through heat and dust and endless miles of ground that never seemed to end, and Rex shifts closer, just an inch, careful, controlled, his nose brushing lightly against Ethan's wrist as if confirming what he already knows. And Ethan's fingers respond, this time curling more firmly into the fur, holding on not out of strength, but out of instinct, and the contact sends something through him, not pain, not confusion, but recognition beginning to take root, slow and uneven like something relearned after being lost. And the nurse at the bedside calls softly for assistance, her voice calm but edged with something new, something hopeful, as footsteps approach down the hallway, measured and quick, and yet none of that breaks the quiet center forming between man and dog, because Ethan's lips move again, forming a sound that barely rises above breath. A word shaped by memory before thought, and though it comes out faint, almost nothing, it is enough, because Rex hears it, understands it, and in that instant his ears lift and his posture changes, not dramatically, not in excitement, but in recognition of command, of connection restored, and Ethan's eyes narrow slightly as if focusing through layers of distance, searching for something just beyond reach, and then it comes, not all at once, but in pieces, flashes of sunlight over sand, the weight of gear, the steady presence at his side that never faltered, the quiet certainty that he was never alone out there, and his breath catches again, deeper now, and his grip tightens just enough to be felt, and the machines beside him adjust their rhythm. In response, soft beeps shifting into a pattern that carries more life than before, and Rex remains exactly where he is, not pulling away, not pressing further, simply holding the line between what was and what still is, because he understands something no one else in the room can name, that this moment is not just recovery, not just survival, but the beginning of something unfinished returning, and as Ethan's gaze steadies on him, clearer now, more present, there is a question there, unspoken, but real, something searching for meaning, for place, for truth, and Rex answers the only way he knows how, by staying, by breathing, by existing in that space without doubt or hesitation, and in that quiet exchange, something shifts again, deeper this time, as if the past itself is beginning to rise to the surface, bringing with it a memory that does not sit easily, a mission that did not end the way it should have, and though no words are spoken, the weight of it settles into the room, unseen, but undeniable, because some bonds do not just remember love, they remember what was left unfinished, and they do not let go until it is made whole. The room grows quieter, not in sound but in weight, as if something unseen has stepped inside and taken a seat between them, and Ethan feels it before he understands it, a pressure behind his eyes, a pull at the edge of his thoughts, like a door that has been closed too long beginning to open on its own, and with it comes fragments, not clear, not ordered, but sharp enough to matter, a stretch of road under a pale sky, the hum of tires over packed dirt, Rex moving ahead with that steady, deliberate pace he always carried when something was not right, and Ethan's breath falters as the memory presses closer, because it does not feel like the past, it feels present, unfinished, and his fingers tighten again in the fur beneath his hand as if holding on will steady what is returning, and Rex senses the change instantly, his body still but alert, ears forward. Eyes locked on Ethan with a focus that cuts through everything else in the room, because this is the moment he has been waiting for, not the waking, not the breathing, but the remembering, and Ethan's lips part as a faint sound escapes, not a full word, not yet. Just a breath shaped by something deeper than thought, and his gaze shifts slightly, not away from Rex but through him, as if seeing beyond the room, beyond the walls, into a place where the air was dry and the horizon never ended, and the machines beside him respond in small adjustments. Their rhythm no longer flat and distant, but uneven in a way that suggests movement, change, life pushing forward instead of fading back, and the nurse stands just a few feet away now, watching closely, her hands still, her voice quiet as she speaks into the radio clipped at her shoulder, but even she seems to sense that whatever is happening here is not something that can be measured in numbers or charts, because Ethan's expression changes, not dramatically, but enough to show strain. Not from pain, but from effort, from reaching into something that does not want to be easily found, and Rex shifts his weight just slightly, pressing closer without breaking the connection, grounding him, anchoring him to something real. As the past presses harder against the present, and then it comes, not all at once, but in a surge of clarity that breaks through the haze, a moment where everything aligns just enough to be felt, and Ethan's voice, weak and rough from disuse, finally forms a word. Barely audible, but unmistakable, Rex, and the sound hangs in the air like something sacred, something earned, and Rex responds not with movement or noise, but with stillness, deeper than before. Because the command he has been waiting for was never spoken out loud, it was this recognition, this return, and Ethan's eyes fill with something that is not confusion anymore, not distance, but awareness. And with it comes the weight of what he is beginning to remember, a mission that did not end the way it should have, a feeling that something had been wrong long before he understood it, and though the room remains the same, the light unchanged, the air still carrying that sterile chill, everything feels different now. Because the line between then and now has begun to blur, and whatever was left unfinished is no longer hidden, it is rising, and Rex, standing at the edge of it, does not look away, because he knows that some missions are not completed in the field. Some are carried forward in silence, waiting for the moment when both souls are ready to face them again. The word lingers in the air long after it is spoken, soft and fragile, yet heavy with everything it carries, and Ethan feels the weight of it settle into his chest as his breathing deepens, uneven but stronger. Like something inside him has decided to stay just a little longer, and Rex does not move, does not break the connection, because he understands that this moment is not complete, not yet, that recognition is only the beginning, not the end, and Ethan's eyes, though still clouded, begin to search with purpose now, not just seeing, but trying to understand, trying to piece together what has been lost and what refuses to stay buried, and the memory presses forward again, clearer this time, sharper, the heat of the air, the low hum of a distant engine, the subtle shift in Rex's posture that had once meant everything, that had once been enough to stop him in his tracks without question, and Ethan's brow tightens slightly as if the effort of holding on to that memory is almost too much, and his fingers grip tighter into the fur beneath them, grounding himself in something real as the past unfolds in fragments that do not yet fully connect, and Rex leans in just a fraction more, steady and unwavering, his presence not forcing, not pulling, simply there, because that is what he has always done, not lead, not follow, but stay exactly where he is needed. And across the room the soft shuffle of footsteps pauses as the nurse watches the change with quiet attention, her voice lowered as she speaks again into the radio, but even she does not step closer now, as if understanding that whatever is happening between them cannot be interrupted, cannot be measured or guided. And Ethan's lips part again, His voice still weak, still strained, but carrying more shape this time, more intent. Stay. The word barely more than breath, yet unmistakable, and Rex's ears lift instantly, not in surprise, but in recognition. Because that command has never been about position, it has always been about trust, about holding the line when everything else begins to fall away, and Ethan's gaze steadies on him, clearer now, more present, and with that clarity comes something heavier. Something that settles deep in his chest, a knowing that there is more, that the memory returning is not just of companionship, but of something left undone, something that had never reached its end, and his breathing stutters for a moment as the image sharpens further. A pause in movement, a hesitation that did not belong, a feeling that something had been wrong before he even understood it, and though the details remain just out of reach, the emotion is there, the weight of it pressing forward, demanding to be faced, and Rex remains exactly where he is, unmoving, unshaken, because he has carried that same weight in silence, in stillness, waiting for this moment, waiting for Ethan to return to it, and in the quiet space between each breath, between each flicker of memory, something becomes clear, not fully formed, not spoken aloud, but understood all the same, that this was never just about survival, never just about waking up. This was about finishing something that had followed them across miles and years, something that had never truly ended. And now, as Ethan's eyes hold steady on Rex, no longer searching but seeing, that unfinished mission begins to take shape once more, not in the field where it began, but here, in a quiet room where two souls refuse to let go until it is made right. The word stays between them quiet, but unbreakable, and something in the room shifts again, not in sound or light, but in truth, as if what was hidden is no longer willing to remain buried, and Ethan feels it rising, not as a clear image, but as a weight pressing forward, demanding to be seen. And his breathing slows, deeper now, steadier, as though he is no longer drifting, but choosing to remain, choosing to face whatever waits on the other side of memory, and Rex senses that change immediately, his posture tightening just slightly, not in tension, but in readiness, the same readiness he carried in moments when silence meant everything, when the smallest signal could change the course of what came next, and Ethan's eyes narrow as the fragments begin to connect, the road, the heat, the stillness that had felt wrong even before it made sense, and then the detail that had stayed with Rex all this time returns, not as a sound, but as a scent, faint and distant, something that did not belong, something out of place. And Ethan's chest rises sharply as recognition begins to take shape, not fully, not comfortably, but enough to stir something deeper than confusion, and his hand shifts again, this time not just holding onto Rex, but pressing slightly, as if grounding himself in what is real while the past unfolds, and Rex responds by leaning in, steady and certain, his presence unwavering, because this is the moment he has carried alone, the truth he has guarded without words, waiting for Ethan to reach it on his own, and across the room the nurse steps back without realizing it, giving space to something she cannot explain, something that feels larger than the room itself, and Ethan's lips part again, his voice still fragile, but carrying more weight now. Something was wrong. The words barely more than a breath, yet they settle heavily into the silence, and Rex's ears lift at the tone, not the words, because it is not what is said that matters, it is what is understood, and Ethan's gaze shifts slightly, not away from Rex, but through the moment, as if seeing beyond it, and the memory sharpens further, the hesitation, the feeling that did not belong to chance, the quiet warning that came too late to name but never left, and his expression tightens, not in fear, but in clarity, because what returns is not just memory, it is truth. And though the details remain incomplete, the meaning is clear enough to be felt, that something about that mission had never been finished, never been resolved, and Rex has known it all along, carrying it not as a burden, but as a duty, waiting for the moment when Ethan would be ready to see it, and now that moment is here, fragile but undeniable, and as Ethan's eyes return fully to Rex, steady and aware, there is no confusion left in them. Only understanding beginning to take root, and in that silent exchange something passes between them, not spoken, not commanded, but agreed upon all the same, that this is not over, that whatever was left behind has found its way back, and this time, they will not walk away from it, because some missions are not measured in miles or time, some are measured in truth, and once that truth is seen, it cannot be ignored. The truth settles into the room without a sound, yet it changes everything, as if the air itself has shifted to make space for something that has finally been acknowledged, and Ethan feels it fully now, not as fragments or distant echoes, but as a quiet certainty that presses against his chest, steady and undeniable, and his breathing evens out, no longer searching, no longer drifting, but anchored in something deeper than recovery, something that carries purpose, and Rex sees it in the way. Ethan's eyes hold steady, no longer clouded by confusion, no longer lost between moments, but present, aware, and with that awareness comes a calm that was not there before, a calm that does not come from answers, but from acceptance. And Ethan's fingers relax slightly in Rex's fur, not letting go, but no longer holding on out of fear, and for the first time since waking, his gaze softens, not with weakness, but with understanding. And he studies Rex as if seeing him not just as he is now, but as he has always been, the silent partner, the steady presence that never needed explanation, and a faint breath escapes him, almost like a quiet exhale of something long carried, and though his voice is still fragile, it carries more weight now, more intention. You stayed. The words barely rise above the hum of the machines, yet they fill the space between them completely, and Rex does not move, because he does not need to. The answer has never been in action. It has always been in presence, and Ethan's eyes close for just a moment, not in weakness, but in reflection, as if allowing everything that has returned to settle into place, and when they open again, there is no searching left in them, only a quiet resolve, because the truth he has remembered is no longer something to chase or question, it is something to carry forward, something to acknowledge and release, and the weight that once pressed against him begins to ease, not disappearing, but transforming into something lighter, something that no longer pulls him back, and Rex shifts just slightly, lowering himself beside the bed once more. Not because the moment has ended, but because it has changed. The tension that once held him upright now replaced by a quiet assurance that what needed to be found has been found, and across the room the nurse watches in silence, her expression softened, as if she understands without needing to be told that something has passed between them that no chart could ever record, and the machines continue their steady rhythm. But now they feel less like a lifeline and more like a background to something greater, something human, something whole, and Ethan's hand remains resting on Rex, his touch gentle, steady, no longer reaching, just present. And in that stillness there's a kind of peace that does not come from victory or resolution, but from something quieter, something deeper, the understanding that not all missions end with action, some end with truth, with presence, with the simple act of not letting go when it matters most. And as the light from the window fades into a softer glow, the room settles into a calm that feels earned, not given, and in that calm, two souls remain exactly where they are meant to be, side by side, no longer searching, no longer waiting, but simply together. And sometimes, that is enough. The light in the room fades into evening, soft and gold at first, then slowly cooling into a quiet gray that settles across the walls, and nothing dramatic happens, no sudden change, no final surge, just the steady presence of two lives resting beside each other. And Ethan feels the difference deep within him, not as a loss, but as a release, as if something that has been held too tightly for too long has finally been set down, and his breathing remains calm, measured, no longer searching for strength, no longer resisting what comes next, and his hand stays where it is, resting against Rex, fingers barely moving now but still connected, still aware, and Rex does not shift, does not lift his head, he simply stays, his body pressed close enough to feel each rise and fall, each quiet breath that passes between moments, because this is the command he understands better than any other, not spoken, not trained, but lived, and across the room the machines continue their gentle rhythm, unchanged, yet somehow less important than they once seemed. As if they are only witnesses now, not guides, and Ethan's eyes drift toward the window, where the last trace of daylight lingers at the edge of the sky, and there is a softness in his expression, something peaceful, something complete, and when his gaze returns to Rex, it carries no questions, no weight, only gratitude, and though his voice is too faint to form another word, the meaning is clear in the way his hand shifts ever so slightly, a final gesture, not of holding on, but of acknowledgement. And Rex responds in the only way he knows, by staying exactly where he is, steady and present, his amber eyes calm, his breathing slow, matching the rhythm beside him, and time moves forward quietly, unnoticed, as moments pass without urgency, without fear, and in that stillness there is something sacred, something that does not need explanation, because not all endings arrive with sound. Some come in silence, in the space between breaths, in the gentle fading of one moment into the next. And when it happens, it is not abrupt, not heavy, but soft, like a door closing without a sound, and the room remains the same, the light, the air, the quiet hum of machines, yet everything has changed, and Rex does not move, not immediately. Because he understands what others often do not, that presence does not end the moment a breath does, that loyalty does not measure time the same way, and so he stays, his head resting near Ethan's hand, eyes open, steady, holding that final moment as if it still exists, as if it always will, and somewhere beyond the walls, beyond the reach of what can be seen, something unseen and gentle carries what was given here, not as an ending, but as something quieter, something lasting, because some bonds do not break when one life ends, they simply change form. And in that quiet room, with the last light gone and only stillness remaining, a mission is finally complete, not with noise or recognition, but with grace, the kind that does not need to be spoken to be understood. In this deeply emotional story, a U.S. Marine and his loyal German Shepherd K9 face a final moment together that is not defined by battle, but by presence, memory, and an unbreakable bond that refuses to fade. As the Marine lies in a quiet hospital room between life and letting go, the K9 senses what no one else can see, holding his position with unwavering loyalty as fragments of memory begin to return, revealing not just shared missions, but a deeper truth left unfinished. This cinematic narrative explores the silent connection between human and animal, where trust is not spoken but lived, and where even the smallest movement can carry the weight of a lifetime, through carefully layered emotion and immersive storytelling. This video stands among the most powerful animal stories, capturing the essence of loyalty, sacrifice, and quiet miracles that define the relationship between a Marine and his K9 partner. As recognition slowly returns and the Marine whispers the name of the one who never left, the story unfolds into a reflection of what it truly means to stay when everything else falls away, making it one of the most unforgettable animal stories for viewers seeking depth and meaning. Without dramatic action or forced resolution, this journey reveals how some missions are not completed in the field, but in moments of stillness, where presence becomes purpose and love becomes the final command, placing it firmly among the most moving animal stories ever told. The narrative continues to build with subtle tension and emotional clarity as the K9 holds the line not through strength, but through faith, guiding the Marine back to a truth that has waited patiently beneath the surface. A hallmark of the most authentic animal stories that resonate across cultures and experiences. As the room grows quiet and the weight of the past is finally understood, the story reaches a gentle yet powerful conclusion, showing that not all endings are loud, some arrive in silence and grace, reminding us why stories like this remain at the heart of meaningful animal stories. This is not just a story of survival, but a story of connection, where loyalty outlives fear and presence becomes the greatest act of love, securing its place among the most heartfelt and enduring animal stories that continue to inspire belief in something greater than ourselves. Character 1. 38-year-old Caucasian U.S. Marine, rugged face, Short military haircut, light stubble, front view, wearing tactical uniform with dog tags, intense yet calm eyes, realistic lighting, cinematic detail, no CGI. No illustration, no cartoon, natural skin texture character 2, 6-year-old German Shepherd K9, full body visible, athletic build, black and tan coat, alert ears, amber eyes, standing firm, front view, realistic fur texture, cinematic lighting, highly detailed, no CGI. No illustration, no cartoon, natural posture.